shout out to Philly Sixers Galaxy and Sixer Daily. And here's their Sixers offseason scenario, part 1. All right. Contract extensions and free agent signings. Contract extensions. Joel Embiid signs a 3-year, $193 million contract extension. That's a tough one, man. That's a tough one. But you're going to re-sign. If Joel is up for an extension, you're going to re-sign him no matter what. He's one of the, whether he gets it done or not, whether he stays healthy or not, we just have to live with the results. But at the end of the day, he's one of the best talents to ever put on a Sixers jersey. You're going to give him a contract extension. Tyrese Maxey, 4-year, $205 million contract extension. Yes, 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 more yes, more yes, more yes. I'm only upset that he couldn't get that extra $40 million because he didn't get voted to an All-NBA team. Yes, give him all the money you possibly can. I'm so happy that Tyrese Maxey is a part of this team. So the future isn't totally bleak. We have a young, just energetic, positive, hardworking, potential NBA superstar for the next, hopefully, 10 years. So the Sixers remain relevant, is what I would at least like to believe. Shout out to Jason Clark for becoming a member of Sicko Nation. Thank you, sir. I appreciate the support. So, yeah, sign Tyrese Maxey, obviously, right? Free agent signings. Paul George, 4 years, $180 million. So they give Paul George the max, I guess, that he's looking for. I mean, I don't know where you got this 180 from. The rumors really are that Paul George wants $212 million, which is the max contract I think that he could get. Rumors that the Clippers don't want to offer that. They want him to sign something like what Kawhi signed, which is 3 years, 150-something. I think the Sixers would have to go a little bit higher than 180 to get this done. But also, swing for the fences, man. Paul George as a third option. I don't care what anybody thinks. He's old. He's this, he's that. If you really look at his injury history, it's not that crazy. It's not even close to Joel Embiid's. And if Joel gets hurt, you're done anyway. But the only way that I really look at Paul George is I say to myself, if the Sixers had Paul George instead of Tobias Harris, would they have gotten out of that New York Knicks series? My answer to that is yes. Would they then have beat the Indiana Pacers? My answer to that is yes. Would the Sixers have been in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Boston Celtics? My answer to that is yes. So that's the only way to look at it. The goal is to try to get the 76ers to the NBA Finals. For the next couple of years, it's always going to involve playing the Boston Celtics in the Eastern Conference Finals. That's just all they're trying to do. So if you sign Paul George 4 years, 180, sure. If there's some team options at the end of it, that would be nice. So if he's totally cooked in year 3, you can just get rid of him. You're going to end up screwed at the end of the day with the money. But for the next 2 years, they're going to swing for the fences. Sign Paul George, 4 years, $180 million, whatever. I don't even think you get him for 180. Like I said, I think you got to go 200. Paul George is not worth that contract. I completely agree, but you got to do it. I don't think anybody thinks he's worth that contract. But you could look at sports in general and say, is this player worth $200 million? Probably not. If the world was perfect, we'd be giving $200 million to people that are making a change in the world, not sports athletes. Nobody's worth $200 million, bro. Anyway, Andre Drummond, 2 years, $8 million. Yes. Andre Drummond's still relatively young. People don't realize that just because he looks old in the face, I think. I love Andre Drummond, but he's a dude that's looked like 35 his whole career. Just big, just big kind of like big old looking dude. But I think he's like 29. He might be 30, but I think he's like 29. How old is Andre Drummond? He's 30. Okay. Andre Drummond's 30. 2 years, $8 million. Yeah, hell yeah. You saw what he did last year when he finally started getting some minutes over Vucevic or they what's his name, Billy Donovan. Is he still the coach in Chicago? Started staggering him and Vucevic more or whatever. There was in the beginning he couldn't get any playing time, and then when he got the playing time, he was still an elite rebounder. And the 76ers haven't been able to find a backup center that didn't implode the team anytime Joel Embiid sat on the bench since they had Andre Drummond. Is it hustling backwards? Of course it is, because this team has no idea what they're doing ever. But if they could fix the Daryl Morey, James Harden trade mistake, at least part of it, by getting Andre Drummond back on 2 years, $8 million, absolutely. If they had a competent ownership group or management who could really, do things, they would be drafting players that they could use at that position, a la Derek Lively or Charles Bassey, who, hey, they did draft, but Daryl let walk away. Was that Doc Rivers calling the shots? Was that Josh Harris? Nobody will ever know. Maybe one day somebody will be on a podcast spilling all the beans, and we'll get word that actually this whole thing was run by stupid 3 or 4 of these billionaire owners that just kept telling the GM and the coach what to do and continue to ruin the team. But anyway, bring Buddy Hield back on 3 years, $27 million. 3 years for Buddy Hield. Yeah, I like it. Sixers fans, we gotta realize when it comes to Buddy Hield that he's just a 3-point shooter off the bench. One of the best catch and shoot guys in the NBA. Actually, the best numbers-wise catch and shoot guy in the NBA in the last couple of years. He went ice cold for a couple games, yeah, but he did get it back. Like in Game 6, he had dropped 20. I think was that Game 5 or Game 6. But there's always a narrative that the Sixers don't have enough shooting. I would say try not to let Buddy Hield leave, because you need that guy that can get hot from 3. And Buddy Hield is one of those guys, one of those very rare shooters that once he's locked in and once he finds the range, he doesn't miss. He gets hot. And he doesn't miss. So he's super streaky, just like any NBA shooter. But I think he has a ton of value, especially for this roster, and it's always valuable to have that kind of guy. So, and he has a little bit of playmaking ability. 3 years, $27 million, sure, do it. Kelly Oubre, 3 years, $30 million, absolutely. Already talked about Kelly Oubre. I like all of these things. If this would happen, I would be happy. I would be happy at this right here. And I know people look at the Paul George thing again or whatever and say, no, he's not worth that. There's no other options, guys. You can only do what you have available. So with what the Sixers have available, if this would happen, I would be happy. It probably wouldn't work because it's never going to work. It's the Sixers. But I would be happy going into next season with that. Taurean Prince on a vet minimum and Kyle Lowry on a vet minimum. I guess I don't hate Taurean Prince on a vet minimum. That's just a utility kind of guy who could come off of the bench, has some veteran experience. And Kyle Lowry on a vet minimum, even though the rumor is that Kyle Lowry wants more than a vet minimum, which is hilarious. Kyle, you're not worth more than a vet minimum. You're 100 years old. Alex Caruso and Paul Reed trades they also threw in here. The Sixers land Alex Caruso by trading the 16th overall pick and 3 second-rounders. Yes. I don't need much more to say than that. Yes. Alex Caruso, for those that don't know, is literally known as the best defender in the NBA. The guy's locked as locked down as lockdown can be. And he just stonewalls people. And on the offensive side, he's got some point guard facilitating ability, not really known as a scorer, averages 9 points a game, but he's really a really good utility player who just gives you a defensive identity. And with a guy like Caruso being on your team, I think it elevates everybody around him defensively also. When you see a guy play defense the way that he plays it, it makes everybody else want to play it that way. And so he brings the best out of a team defensively, I think. Yes, to Caruso. I mean, the Sixers, yes. They need a guy like that. And they trade Paul Reed and a second. Wait, they trade Paul Reed to the Spurs. They trade a second rounder to the Hawks for AJ Griffin and a 2026 second rounder. A Paul Reed trade. I got to be honest, I don't know much about AJ Griffin. I think AJ Griffin's like a young power forward type, right? I don't know much about AJ Griffin. But Paul Reed trade, I think, is best for both sides. I know we re-signed him. I know we were happy to re-sign him, but for some reason, Paul Reed just became completely unplayable in the playoffs. And bringing him back to Philly, especially if in this scenario you sign Andre Drummond, for the sake of the Sixers and Paul Reed, I think a trade would be good for both sides. And so here's a projected rotation with all of these moves that Philly, Sixers, Galaxy, and Sixer Daily came up with. And the starting lineup would be Tyrese Maxey, Alex Caruso, Paul George, Kelly Oubre, and Joel Embiid. And the bench would be Kyle Lowry, Buddy Hield, Ricky Council, Taurean Prince, Andre Drummond. This is obviously probably not going to happen. But I think, yeah, in a perfect world, if this would happen, this team would be in the Eastern Conference Finals against the Boston Celtics next year. Especially if these idiots give this guy right here the playing time that he deserves.